Hello and welcome to the first episode of Mike's experimental solo role-playing series. A little bit of background. I started playing D&D at the beginning of the pandemic, like a lot of people, and while I love it, I find it really hard to get other people involved, and sometimes when we do get together, the story hits a wall or I lose interest. There's all kinds of things going on in my life, so it's harder than you think to keep a group together and motivated. So I stumbled on a rabbit hole subculture on YouTube of solo role playing, and I thought it was. At first I thought this is the saddest thing I've ever heard of, because role-playing is already pretty nerdy, and on top of that you're going to do it by yourself. What could be more just sort of sad, pathetic? And then I realized I'm playing video games by myself, I read by myself, I watch movies by myself. I mean, not all the time, I have a partner, but like I do a lot of stuff by myself. What the hell's the difference? There isn't one. So I thought I would give it a shot, and it's turned out to be one of the most interesting things that I've done in the last, few years, I think. And there's a reason for that. The reason is because you are using a series of tools that are pulling the story down from the cosmos and presenting it to you in ways that you can't possibly predict. And I think that's the nature of creativity, is juxtaposing unlikely things to produce something new or unexpected. And to me, that's the most exciting part of making art or music, is the discovery part, and not having like a clever idea and then executing it cleverly and look how well I executed my idea. I'm much more interested in discovering and uncovering and making connections and having like a series of aha moments, which is all you're experiencing when you do a solo role-playing session. It's just constantly like constantly being surprised. And I haven't ever experienced that in any other medium. So I'm sort of surprised it's such a small community. There's probably 20 or 30 YouTubers doing this. I think there's a lot of potential here. And I really don't know if, what this could turn into, but I thought it would be fun to show people who don't know what the hell I'm doing, to show them what I'm doing. And basically I'm playing an old school version of D&D. These are retro clones, so White Box and Basic Fantasy. These are both like $5 online, and they're just the rule book that you start with to make a character, to refer back to anytime you need to adjudicate a rule for yourself. I mean, you would use these for other players, like normal D&D. These aren't specific to solo role-playing, but the point is you can use any rule set that you want, that you like, and the more familiar you are with it, the better, because it'll make your experience that much smoother. So number one, you need your rule set, because without rules you might as well just be writing, which is fine, but that's not what we're doing. So you need some structure, rules. The second thing you need are what are called generative tools, and I take a lot of these terms from Geek Gamers. Deborah, she has an amazing YouTube channel where I basically learned all of these skills. I learned most of this stuff from her, and this is the Tome of Adventure Design. She recommended this. I picked this one because the cover was cooler. This is a first edition, I think. And what this is a big book of charts. Random tables is what they're called. And the best way to describe this is like your DM's brain, because you don't have a DM. This is like your DM coming up with things, and the way you do that is you roll a D100, which is 2 dice, let's go with the beginning, because the beginning is obviously the most important when you don't know what you're doing. So if I were playing a new campaign or scenario, the first thing I would have done is used one of my rule sets to create a character, and then I would want to throw them into a world, and the way that I start to develop that world is by using tools like the Tome of Adventure Design, what Deborah from Geek Gamers refers to as generative tools. So that means they generate the world. So let's see, what type of mission would we go on? That's a 68. We start with a location. Okay, so it's a location-based mission. I'll refer to table 1.6 for locations. This will tell us where we're going or where we're starting. 24. Defend from attack. So where are we? What are we defending from attack? 38. A flying vehicle. That's a cool place to start. So perhaps we're in the flying vehicle. That would be a fun beginning where you jump right into the action. Okay, so we're in a flying vehicle. We're starting our game. I mean, I'm not really, but hypothetically. What is the name of the vehicle? I'm going to, now that I've used a generative tool, I'm going to use another one, which is just a book, The Uses of Enchantment. I'm going to open to any old page, and the first name that I find will be the name of the ship. Okay, Cinderella. That's the name of our ship. I think that's a really cool name. So, two examples of generative resources: random tables, books. Another one I like to use if my character needs a trinket or something when they set off on their adventure. I'll just turn to a random page. They start off with a bone, and it is let's say it's a rose-colored bone, or a bone carved into the shape of a rose, something like that. So you're just grabbing ideas from wherever, and there's infinite number of resources to determine names, objects, things like that. But I like this book because it offers a lot of granularity and description for specific things to like a fantasy setting. Types of ruins, what types of growth is on the ruins, how many stories of the ruins, what type of ruins, is it a temple, a castle, an old courthouse. This book does a great job of helping you flesh out fantasy specific locations, missions, monsters, NPCs, all that stuff. So those are some generative resources. Now let's talk about restrictive resources. That would be what are known as oracles. So this is an oracle chart. It's a percentile oracle. So you think about the likelihood of your question. This helps you further the narrative. So with the oracle, it's called a restrictive tool because it's another thing to give structure when you're confused or things feel a little too chaotic or willy-nilly. Then you're sort of just doing make-believe at that point when you just can do anything you want. So you need these restrictive tools. So let's ask the oracle, are we the good guys or the bad guys? I'm asking, are we the good guys? 27. I was going to say 50-50, so yes, we're the good guys. Do we know who's attacking us? I'll say that's another 50-50. I'm referring to the likelihood first. I decide what the likelihood is of my question, and then I roll, and whatever the number is, I either get a yes or a no. So, do we know who's attacking us? I'm going to say that's a 50-50. I got a 92. We do not know who's attacking us. So this is a surprise attack from an unknown enemy. So there you go. Now we're off to the races, and Yeah, I mean, it would help to know who my character is, what they're capable of, and all that sort of thing. Um, are there guns on this ship? I'm going to say that's very likely. And that's a 40, so yes. Yes, there are guns on the ship. Are they in the front or the rear? I'll roll a d6. Odds, they're in the front. Even, they're in the rear. So the guns are in the rear, and as we're being chased, I think that's a good thing. So my character would move to the rear of this ship, the Cinderella, and start firing, and at that point you could go into combat. So as far as oracles are concerned, restrictive tools, there's all kinds. You can find everything online. Obviously, I feel like I don't have to say that in 2022, but charts for yes or no questions. There's the Mythic GM Emulator, which basically has a series of charts, but that's a little more interesting because it'll complicate things and say yes and or no but, and then it also has some descriptive charts for they're considered descriptive oracles. So if you wanted to know what color something was, or if you want to make some free associations, let's ask, what does our enemy ship look like? Before the marriage is to take place, the two are to spend a night in bed together. There Jack lies stock still and makes no move toward the princess. This greatly offends both her and her father, but the king soothes his daughter and suggests that Jack may be scared of her in the new situation in which he finds himself. Okay, whatever that means. I'm going to say their ship looks a little bit impotent, Their ship doesn't look like much. That's what I would think. So that's an example of an interpretive use of a descriptive, restrictive resource or tool. So we're not overly threatened by the ship because, as the text says, Jack can't really perform. So we've done generative resources, which would be like this NPC generator chart. Once again, the Tome of Adventure Design, Book of Symbols. So these are generative, right? And then Deborah talks about suggestive tools, and for me that would be something like a Hermetic Tarot. So maybe I want to know more about what the ship that's chasing us looks like. Why not just grab a tarot card? And this actually is a bird, the Great One of the Night Time. And this sort of looks like a thunderbird or something like that, and it looks like it's flying through space. So it kind of looks like it's made out of metal. I don't know if that's visible there. Obviously it's probably not metal, but that just, that's suggestive. Now I can see it in my mind. It's this like silver bird shaped vessel, that perhaps it's sort of small or it's flying slowly. Anyway, this is how you answer your own questions and put things into your mind. So you've got generative, restrictive with the oracles, suggestive with tarot cards or game pieces from other board games. Deborah likes to use maps from other games, and she'll just pick a place on the map and say that's where we're starting. So visual aids are really good. I don't have any here right now, but those suggestive tools can just help kickstart your imagination further. And then a restrictive rule set, restrictive, generative, and suggestive. So that's pretty much all of them. Once again, rules to tell you how to play the game and to adjudicate rules when you get stuck on technical things like how much additional damage does that great axe do. And then you've got your restrictive resources, which are the yes-no oracles and things like that, and that can extend into descriptive oracles. And then you need your generative resources, so the NPC chart, Tome of Adventure Design. This sort of falls in between generative and suggestive. Books, any book can be used in that way. And then cards, you're basically you're trying to source a bunch of inspirational material that you can throw at the wall of your brain, see what sticks, what's interesting to you. And I think most importantly, to keep things moving, is to use these yes/no questions. Do we escape? 73. I'm going to say that's a 50-50. Yeah, no, we don't escape. So this silver bird-shaped yet sort of unimpressive ship is chasing us, and it continues to chase us. And as far as combat and things like that, that's when you would refer to your rule set. Anyway, those are the tools that you need to start playing, and I'm gonna probably roll up a character next and do more of this stuff in case it was convoluted, which I think it may have been. I'm gonna do an actual play, roll up a character, roll up some locations, some objectives, and send them off and see what happens. So thanks for watching.